anyone know the importance of this date, July 21st, 1969? Anyone? No? It was the day the American people fell victim to one of the biggest lies told by the American government. The moon landing. Today you're going to learn the truth. So this is Earth's moon. I really hope all of you have seen it at least once. So according to NASA, it's between 252,088 miles to 225,623 miles away. And on average, that means it is 238,855 miles. So this is because the moon's orbit is elliptical, which means it's not a perfect circle. So the distance is how close it is versus how far it is. And this also causes the tides. So the distance, as you can see, is really, really vast. And so 30 Earths can fit between the moon and the Earth. So this is the Earth, and because the brightness is not that great, this tiny dot here that some of you can't see is the moon. So the moon also has no atmosphere, which is why you can't breathe air there, because there's nothing to trap the air in. This is also called a vacuum. And because of the size of the moon, so gravity works by big objects pulling down light lines. So because of the size of the moon, it has 1/6 of the gravity on Earth. Okay, on to the science. So some of you may be skeptical, I understand that, but let's look at the science. So this is what's called a Van Allen belt, as you can see. So according to NASA, this is a cutaway model of the radiation belt with 2 Van Allen probe satellites, as you can see, A, B. The radiation belts are 2 donut-shaped regions encircling Earth, where high-energy particles, mostly electrons and ions, and so for those of you who have forgotten or just tried to block out chemistry altogether, I understand. Electrons are the small part of the atom that have a negative charge, and ions are atoms that have a charge due to the amount of electrons and how they interact with them. So they're trapped by the Earth's magnetic field, and according to NASA, this radiation can affect the performance and reliability of our technology and pose a threat to astronauts and spacecraft. 60s tech was very analog, so it's hard to believe that it could pass through this without killing or seriously damaging the astronauts. Remember the vacuum and the fact that there's no air. So because there's no air, there can't be any wind. As you can see here, the flag is waving. It is in 2 different positions. This can only happen if there is air on the moon, which, as we said before, is impossible because it's in a vacuum. And you can see, despite the pole here trying to keep it in place, it is still waving. Also, does anyone see what's missing from these pictures? The stars. As we all know, or should know, space has stars. Billions and billions, countless stars, and yet in these photos, there are none. So, anyone know what this is? So this is a still from the video that got beamed down to Earth live of the moon landing. As you can see, the quality is absolutely horrible. Like, I believe it was 30 frames per second or minute, I'm not quite remembering. but the quality is horrible, so it is difficult to see, which makes it easier to conceal the fact that this was faked. Also, why would America do this? Well, at this time, the Cold War was at its peak. And this was when America and Russia were on the brink of nuclear disaster. The strategy was called MAD, mutually assured destruction, where when one sent a nuke, the other would send a nuke, and that would be the end of Earth. So instead of doing that and killing us all, they decided to have proxy wars and tried to show each other up. So the Russians did a really good job. They sent Sputnik into space, astronauts, a dog. So America felt the best way to show them up was sending them to the moon, which is difficult and, as we saw, very dangerous to the astronauts. So this was a great accomplishment. As you can see, you can fool all of the people all of the time if your special effects budget is large enough, which it was, because America was doing all in its power to beat the Russians to space. And this is not the first time the Americans were lied by their government, especially in this era. If anyone knows very quickly about the American policies and Vietnam that was going on at the time, they have staged events before, such as the Gulf of Tonkin, where they have faked an attack to get the American people on board to attack Vietnam. So, in conclusion, it is important to wake up to the truth. It is important to know the truth and question our government and to be aware of what's really going on. Thank you.